Y'all help me remember if anybody comes in after we start this to get their permission. We're going to be recording this. It'll be posted for the public. Is everybody okay with that? Shake your head this way. Give me a
Yes,
thumbs up.
I'm okay
Hannah.
with it.
Good, good. Hannah, how come we're not getting to see you? Are you eating?
I'm eating.
That's too funny. We don't care. We don't care. We won't look in your mouth and stuff much.
Well, I'm just eating yogurt, so I'll be done shortly.
It's okay. There's no rush. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, as you know. If you don't know, well, I don't know. Let me see. I might have a joke here. You want to hear a joke? Just for the heck of it? Why not? Uh-oh. Here we go. Did I ask you this already? Why don't sheep shrink when it rains? Did I ask you that already? Yeah.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it sounds familiar.
All right.
I forget the punchline, but it sounds familiar.
That is the punchline. There's no punchline. It's a question. It's just, if you think about it, it's supposed to be funny. Okay, never mind.
Oh.
We hate that. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Oh my God. You remind me.
Does this guy deliver or what? I'm saying, yeah. I think I've already done that. If flying is so safe, why do they call the airport the terminal?
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, no more. Today we're going to talk about a really, really exciting, and y'all can all blame Rihanna for this. We wouldn't we wouldn't be doing this. We didn't have to, but we have to. We're going to be talking about something really, really exciting, and it is called paperwork. All right, paperwork. And how this got started, and Rihanna apologized that I'm going to go over some of the things we talked about yesterday, and you'll have to sit through it again. Rihanna got in touch and said, we're doing some things here. We know that there's, paperwork that's been done, everything from, intake forms to different data we want to collect with clients, et cetera. And correct me, and Rihanna, if I don't get this right or you need to add some, don't hesitate. And we know that you guys have some of that stuff out there. Maybe you could help. And so she emailed me that, and I said, well, let's get together and talk about it a little bit. And because when she did that, I immediately got a little bit afraid. All right, let me tell you why. One is there are boxes of forms, curriculum, boxes of it. All right, cabinets full of that. And I picked this up and I showed it to her. Y'all see this? Look how thick this is. Look at this. Every page is different. This is just one little curriculum collection. Just one. Now, here's the scary part. This may or may not be, I may or may not have soft copy of this. Okay. This is just one of many, many, many things. I showed her this also. One little tiny Lifeway parent information. This is a folder. Look at all of this stuff that's in it. Again, and these are all different pages. Here's a family information packet that's actually in this folder. There are truly, no kidding, cabinets full of these things. All right, curriculum, and that's not even counting the clinical stuff. You remember that an alternative peer group program can embrace a great deal more than just the meetings, okay, and the social functions. Okay, Janessa Fletcher just signed in. Hi, Janessa. She's connecting to audio. She can't say hi back. Now she can. Hey, Janessa.
Hi, Janessa.
Hey, Hannah Quitty. How are you?
Oh, look at her. She's all decked out in uniform today.
Yeah, really.
She just got activated.
No kidding. Tell us about
I
it.
did.
What's happening?
I'm going to be part of the COVID vaccination team.
No kidding. How exciting.
Yeah. So we're setting up sites all over the state, but I'm working at the one out of Londonderry in New Hampshire. So we'll be doing testing and administering vaccines starting Monday.
Wow. Is it going to be from Pfizer or Moderna? Moderna isn't sending out yet, are they? It's just Pfizer?
We have Moderna right now, and Pfizer shipped out. We should have it by Friday.
No kidding. How exciting.
So Janessa, be safe. I would rather you drive safely than join while you're
Oh, you
driving.
guys, I put you on you're on a magnet.
On a magnet?
Yeah. You just stick there.
Okay.
Well,
be
we're
safe.
glad you're here and we appreciate what you're doing and can't wait to take the vaccine. Can't wait. Do you mind if we record this and be placed?
Of course, I don't mind.
Okay, good deal. All right. We're talking about paperwork. We're talking about there are mountains and mountains of paperwork. Alternative peer group programs go back, got down to this point, go back 50 years. So there's paperwork that goes all the way back to 50 years ago. On the Palmer Drug Abuse Program website, the PDAPers, the old PDAPers website, that goes all the way back to the 70s. The last few days, there were some postings that was old paperwork going back from way back then. Okay, that it just was being posted. Everybody's going, you remember this? Yeah, I do. You know, that kind of thing. So the paperwork is there, lots and lots of paperwork, but there's two sides to this. Obviously, if there are cabinets full of paperwork, not everybody needs all of that for what they're doing at the time. Okay. But number two, but they may need some of it. How do we find what you need? How do we get it to you conveniently to where you can use it and those kind of things? So really, Brianna's question prompted us to move as an association toward creating some tools and elements for our membership and everybody that makes it easy, etc. One of the questions, going back to the first one, what do you need, when, where, and how, it gets me back to what I was saying a second ago, and that is an alternative peer group program can look very different from one organization or one time to another. Lifeway has at times been in 11 different cities with multiple locations in each one of those cities. Has had 4 hospitals, full-blown insurance paid hospitals, what they call them, you know, now we can call them residential programs. Had sober living before anybody had even come up with the term sober living. We call them the guys' houses and the girls' houses. Had sober living for adolescents. It's called the Sober Living Center, you know. All of these kind of things, each one of them at that period of time needed different levels of paperwork for each one of those things. Had IOP, licensed by the state of Texas, licensed by the state of Arizona, licensed by the state of Georgia, you know, different states licensing. We had, to create those licenses, you have to have, as you know, policy and procedure manuals. So there's policy and procedure manuals around that embrace all of that clinical stuff, as well as the meetings and you know, the family meetings and those kind of things. Different states require different levels of documentation and all those kind of things. Then you get into the problem of how are you funded? Okay. If you are funded by insurance paying for residential and the residential creates APGs as part of their program, then your paperwork is going to have to match up not only with what the state requires, but also what the insurance companies require. If you are just doing what I'm doing right now, which is just having meetings, doing some individual counseling, I'm doing it, you know, and that kind of thing, it takes a lot less paperwork, but I have to have some. I have to have my own personal license. I have to have some things around, I have to keep certain records within my own private practice. It's not the right word, my own personal practice. And it also has to be governed. There's a small non-profit, a small closely held corporation that actually owns Lifeway right now. It's called Stick with Winners Inc. You know, and that requires some paper too. Here comes somebody else here. Check out Courage is here. All the courage.
Hey, what's up?
What's happening, man?
Oh man, just running a little late. Thanks for letting me in.
Oh, well, we weren't going to let you in. We had to take a vote and everything. It was pretty close, but it was okay. We're glad to have you.
Hannah, thanks for sticking up for me.
Yeah, I was your proponent. Are you okay with us recording this and posting it for the public? All right. I'm so glad you came because it's really an exciting day. We're talking about paperwork, probably your favorite subject. Yeah, I knew it. How many of you guys like paperwork? Not a hand has been raised. Isn't that interesting? Oh. Michelle, the outlier, I'm going to throw her hand up. I don't think she really likes it. I think she's just trying to be cool. Anyway.
No, actually, she does actually like paperwork. She likes crunching numbers. She's kind of weird that way.
Oh,
no,
good.
No lie.
I love forms.
She loves forms.
Well, good. Well, then actually, that's interesting that you do that. And here's why. Guys, I can't take this and do 150 pages of scanning that it would take to send this to you. All right. And what I wanted to do today is kind of talk about this issue of there's all of this resource out there. We have an association, but we need to come up with a plan, frankly, to put these things together and make them available to everybody. So I thought we would take today and entertain ideas and thoughts. Just so far, what kind of is going through anybody's mind? Please step forward and let me take a drink of my coffee.
Well, I know when we oh, so sorry.
I was gonna say, I know in the military we have a website. It's called Army Pubs, and everyone, every document gets a number, and then if you ever need it, you just go on Army Pubs and pull it off.
Okay.
All different types, and
that's an idea. I know, Heidi, we have a Dropbox of some type. Isn't there a Dropbox right now?
Not that I'm aware of, but we for Creating Connections New Hampshire, what we've done is we've created a website off of our website at the University of New Hampshire Institute on Disability, where we have been publishing documents that we have been developing through the Creating Connections New Hampshire project. I think it's a great idea to have a shared Google Drive folder. So I did set up a Google Drive folder to store association of alternative peer group documents that I've been gathering. And so early on when we were starting out, I outreached several members, and I know Keystone Austin and APG Las Vegas were willing to share their orientation packets with us, which we then went through and looked at what was relevant and made sense for us to adopt and refine and modify for the New Hampshire alternative peer groups. And so we created kind of our own orientation packet draft that then we're asking the alternative peer groups to review and modify to make some changes.
So it does that. I used the term Dropbox, but maybe that was incorrect. A Google page.
Yeah, just a shared.
Remember, guys, who you're talking to. You're talking about McGurk. Okay, I'm the old dude, so help me out here.
So I think it's a great idea to have for the association to have like a shared file or a shared folder where documents could be stored. I shared out via email with members. I just responded to John's email last week, I think, asking for feedback on when and how often organizations are soliciting feedback from stakeholders, so youth, caregivers, other community members on their programming. And I set up a document just thinking that it would be an easy way for everybody to have access to that information, in one place. And so, we can continue to use that folder, if you want. I think it makes more sense to be linked to you, John, to have, something linked to the
association
right,
itself.
yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just cut to the chase on something. Would anybody be willing to mess with the website, whatever we have to do? Crystal Collier, Dr. Collier, is who kind of manages the website for us. And so would this be something that needs to be tied to the website, or could this be set up separate from the website with maybe a link on the website or maybe this actually ought to be limited to members.
Yeah, so if you did it that way, then you could, once you have members join the association, then they could be added to that shared folder,
Right.
to access the content. I think having a link off of the website makes sense. And then it's just a matter of managing access.
Okay, all right. I'm going to suggest to the board that documentation be available to members. I think that's where they're going to want to go with it at this point in time. The people we're reaching is getting larger and larger and larger, and folks will use the term APG, and sometimes it's an APG, sometimes it might not be. And so we need to develop some credibility as we move along. And I think this is one of the places that we can do that. So how hard is it to set up? See, I've never set up a Dropbox.
Yeah, so I could probably, so Dropbox costs money. There might be a free version of Dropbox, but for Google Docs, it doesn't cost any money. But just if you use Google Drive, essentially Google, like if you read the fine print, which nobody does, it essentially says that Google owns everything if you put in Dropbox.
Right.
So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
Many folks are fine with that. If you're not fine with that, then I would recommend using something else. Microsoft Teams is another option for shared documentation. I personally hate Microsoft Teams, but some of you might love it and have had better experiences.
So you're suggesting like Dropbox, the Google Dropbox thing, is that right?
Yeah, right. Like a Google Drive folder, right?
Am I misusing the word Dropbox?
So Dropbox is just it's a particular brand of a shared drive.
All right. So
Right.
I need to quit using Dropbox and start saying Google File.
Yeah. So Google Drive is another brand, right?
Okay. All right.
of
Right.
shared folders, right?
Okay, you guys, I never said Dropbox. What I said was Google Drive.
Google Drive, Google Docs,
Okay,
whatever.
Google Docs. We're going to set up something in Google Docs. Okay.
the nice thing about that is you can have multiple people, like, so if you are working on like a shared document, you could have multiple people in multiple locations in the same document at the same time.
Right,
The bad thing about Google Docs is you can have multiple people working in the one document
right,
at the same
right,
time.
right. It's
And so
changing
sometimes
so
it can get
fast, yeah.
changed, right?
All right. I would like to know, does everybody think this is a good idea? Does this sound like a good idea and helpful and everything?
It sounds like a good idea, and I really liked what I think Janessa was saying, that the military does, the multiple listing service. I'm a real estate agent here in Seattle, and the multiple listing service does a similar thing. And so you have one page that just lists the document numbers
Lists
and a
all the
description
stuff.
of what those documents are, and then you can access them by searching for the document number. So cataloging them in some way, whether it's that number system or some other way, so they're easy to find.
All right. Well, let me think on that. All right. Okay. All right. So that's where we'll move ahead, you know, in a systemic sense. That's kind of what we'll move ahead on. On a more specific type thing, Rihanna, can I ask you to kind of feedback here? Give us again, you told me, but give the group kind of what it is. I know some of the group already probably knows what you're looking for, but some may not, you know, some of the others. So tell me again, what kind of things match up with your needs right now, information wise, you know, because I want to work off of that again.
Well, we are working with Heidi in creating connections. So they have sent us the APG orientation packet, which is absolutely helpful. We do have to tweak some things in there. I guess what I really wanted to see was what's working for other organizations, what information they're collecting, just if there's more information we should be getting that might be beneficial to us. But, you know, I don't know what I don't know. So I don't know necessarily if there's some things that we're not even looking at that might improve the group. So anything like that so far is just data collection, especially as we start off. And, you know, of course, I'm also really interested in curriculum as well as we're developing this.
Right.
Just,
you know, on data collection, I'm going to suggest that you go to Michael and the people who, if you go to the research section at the website, there's all those research things and articles and everything. Those are the folks who have the greatest tag to data that is most relevant. So you might call or write Wilkerson, Michael Wilkerson, and Crystal, and even Dr. Basinger is still around. The guy who did the big study, and they collected different types of data. And Angie Nash has done the study on recovery capital, and she had to collect certain data, and that might be a good place for you. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can share with you, because we're in South Carolina, we really have to focus on sharing the efficacy of APGs. And so we have to record data to do that. And I contacted Angie Nash and got these surveys on parent recovery and adolescent recovery and like ways to measure them. If that's what you're getting at, I could definitely share those with you.
That is definitely a part of what we're looking for. So yeah, that would be great.
And curriculum wise, are you talking, like, what kind of curriculum are you talking about? We have a good one.
So we don't even have a group up and running yet. So really we're looking into developing our own curriculum into other groups' curriculum that's working. It's just for our basic APG meetings that we're going to hold, a couple days a week.
Okay. We have a life skills curriculum, the Botvin High School and Transitions. if any of y'all have heard of those. Very good. We, we hold a all recovery meeting. We hold a 12-step or a smart recovery meeting, and then we hold a life skills session. And those are our 3 like meeting touch points. The rest are hangouts. And we found that to be effective for us.
Thanks, Hunter. I just dropped the link to the Dropbox folder into, now I'm calling it Dropbox, John, to the Google Drive folder that I had set up. If you're willing to share any of those resources, I know that would be great.
It would stay with me. I'd have no ownership of.
Thanks.
Let me get this. Wow. Did y'all see what Robin wrote?
Yes, I am jotting some rough notes and I'm happy to share them out.
Okay.
I agree though. I think that, I fully agree with what Robin said. So Robin said we need a secretary, like someone, or a scribe, like someone willing to take notes. And in the absence of that, I think having a member like rotate through taking notes for these meetings would be helpful.
That would be great. The other thing, did you see what Robin wrote? This is much more important than that.
Oh, stopping at Buc-ee's? What?
Yes.
I don't know what that means.
I knew it. That's why I'm drawing attention to it.
Oh, Buc-ee's, the big gas station?
Oh,
I
yeah.
do know Buc-ee's.
It's
I
so
have
awesome.
some Buc-ee's and all kinds of, we one time, so when we went out to Texas, we actually did all of our souvenir shopping at Buc-ee's.
Oh, Buc-ee's is so cool.
The biggest gas station I've ever been to in my life.
They're so neat. They're so neat. There's so much cool stuff in it. Just, God, I can't even tell you.
So
And-
grab
and-
this
During the
secretary.
pandemic, let me tell you how cool it is during the pandemic. Buc-ee's is so big, you go to the bathroom, you never touch a door, anything. It's just this wide open cave you go into and go to the bathroom. It's awesome. You don't ever have to touch anything. You got a mask on, it's totally safe. And so you can travel around Texas and still use the potty every once in a while, which is a big deal to an old man. So yes, Buc-ee's is awesome. You got it. You got to come to Texas and you got to go to Buc-ee's when you come. So much for Buc-ee's. Michelle, were you saying something that you wanted us to hear?
No,
you
we have a
talking to your
house
cat?
full of teens and they come and sit down at this time of morning to eat breakfast. So they're chatting with me while,
Oh, that's okay. I just thought maybe you were talking to your cat because
which one? We have a house full of those too.
all right, here's a question. So, and this is for each one of you because I want to see something real quick. Would each one of you think about what is a piece of paperwork that would be most helpful right now in what you're doing?
So I know we've been talking about how and when to get stakeholder feedback. So, in particular, youth, participating in the APG, or caregivers around their experience, what's working, what's not working, how satisfied they are with services, things like that.
Okay. Youth feedback.
And then Hannah said an incident report form and protocol for who communicates to whom when an incident occurs.
Okay. Other answers? Anybody? A way of collecting important emergency contact information.
We have just created a form for that, but it would be great to have what did they used to call those? Access database, where people are just filling it out online and it feeds directly into a spreadsheet or contact system that your staff can access.
All right. Let's as we're talking about this, then let's talk about not only do we create paperwork, but we create paperwork that is and let me preface this by saying meets the laws of the land, you know, but paperwork that is electronically friendly. Because I do this all the time when a client comes in, and I'm saying this is backwards and needs to change. When a client comes in, I send out a client information sheet, fee agreement, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I email it to them. They end up having to fill it out, sign it, and they either take a picture or something. I have a client who's a real estate guy, and they have these electronic docs that they can do that, right? You know, we can do all sorts of stuff. And I don't have to come back and I don't have to print it out and put it in a big file and all of that kind of stuff. So as we're doing this, does anybody have any expertise in that? How do we translate all of this paper stuff to something that's more client friendly and more program friendly and works better with computers? Anybody got any experience in that? No? Okay.
Well, I guess I would have some concerns, just, you know, based on, you know, some of the privacy laws about.
Yeah, it has to meet the laws of the land.
Yeah, right,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. You have to do all that. I know that there are some ways of doing it. The reason why I know that is my accountant can do a lot of stuff, but there's certain things that you have to do in order for him to send me stuff or me to send him things. There's certain things that we have to do to match up with privacy laws, et cetera.
I think if you look at the medical world is where you're going to find the closest match for that, so that it's HIPAA compliant.
Right.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying, John, and that's exciting to me, is that they auto-populate. So when you put in the family's information the first time, it can auto-populate the other forms.
Right.
Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah. What could we do as we're starting to create this? What could we do? Who could we reach out to? You guys think about people you might know who have this kind of knowledge. You know, a lot of times when we build programs, we may not, the staff obviously would not have what they need to get something done, but sometimes the supporters of the program, that can be board members, it can be families. Some families have some things they're glad to help, you know, and help put that thing together. In the case of adult programs, we've had adults who were the client of focus, you know, that they were actually willing to help with some things. Just like they'll help put together social activities, they might help with this element too. So if y'all have anybody that wants to give any feedback or anything, please let us know, and we'll just kind of keep plugging at this until we get there. Again, this youth feedback thing, I think that you're going to find some of that with the research folks. I think they've gotten some youth feedback in some of the materials that they've put together, but you'll have to talk with Mike and Crystal and those guys a little bit to get it from. Incident report forms, there's thousands of them. There's a billion of them around. And who wrote that down, incident report form? Who said that?
Me, Hannah.
Hannah?
Yes.
And you're in New Hampshire, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What does the law require in an incident report form in New Hampshire? Because different states have different requirements. Do you know?
No, I'm a very bad person to ask that question to, which is not good. So for our incident reports that we currently use, we have a form through the host agency that we work under as a program. And so that's what we use. But I don't know law-wise what that requires. I don't know if Heidi or Sean, you have any information on that.
They're probably matching up, and Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, or Sean, either one. They're probably matching up with what the laws are for the state for incident reports. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Is it, does it have, is it missing some stuff you wish it had, or have some stuff you think is not necessary?
We use an incident report through our electronic record system called Evolve, and I believe that it's really just like something that came with Evolve, so it's not meant necessarily for group settings. It's more like, and I guess that's not a huge deal, but I think that there would be some like changing that form around. But for the APGs that maybe don't even have that yet, I think it would be important that
Okay.
that be a place to start.
Yeah. All right. I will tell you this, that when in the past, we've had incident report forms, and they were basically, what the state said, this is what has to be recorded. One of the things we did do with incident report forms, though, at times we made sure that there were certain things in the incident that were specific to an APG. Okay. For example, there is a social activity, and it's an adolescent social activity. Two of the people have sex. They sneak off and have sex at the social activity, and the parent, one of them gets really, really upset. Okay. What gets called into play is supervision processes. You got to make sure that you record that the supervision, how it happened, et cetera, and responses to the family member. One of the things you want to be careful of that's going to come out of this paperwork is making sure that you have your ages square. If you have an 18-year-old in there having sex with a 17-year-old, you got a whole different situation than if it's two 17-year-olds. So when you're deciding your age cutoffs, you want to be very careful about all that. Also, the feedback on the incident report will a lot of times lead you to help you deal with some of the family, et cetera, on what to do, how to do it, et cetera, those kind of things. So yeah, your incident report, you kind of want to think about, this is not a standalone client. This is not a situation where we're in a hospital or a lockdown residential. This is something that's in the real world out there, and you want your incident report to reflect that. Other questions, ideas, thoughts on paperwork? Yum.
Where do we get training on HIPAA compliance? I have no clue what we're getting into.
HIPAA will do it for you. Usually, if you Google some things, around HIPAA compliance, they'll probably point you in some directions.
Okay.
Okay, to do that.
So we're also looking into 42 CFR Part 2 on training for our alternative peer groups, which is the substance abuse treatment laws that pertain to youth, where they can consent to supports and services at, I think it's 13. Is it 13 or 16? Is it 16, Sean?
It's 13 in Washington.
Yeah, 13. Thank you. That's what I had in my head, but I wasn't thinking that it was right.
Yeah.
It's not right in New Hampshire. Is that?
It's
sorry.
not. So 42 CFR just says you have to follow your state's RSAs.
Okay.
Washington is 13. In New Hampshire, it's 12.
It's 12. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Live free or die, right, Michelle?
Right. Live free or die. Right. So, so that means that, we want to make sure that our APG facilitators are protected, and that everyone understands, and doesn't, share information about a young person, even with their caregiver, without the youth's consent, 12 and up. Right. And so, so that's specific to, well, the ages, I guess, are specific to the different states, but, that's an important piece, I think, to consider as well.
Yeah, and you really want somebody training who has full knowledge. And you want full knowledge because it's so easy to get off in a place that doesn't make sense with some of the rules and laws that are actually destructive. Give you an example. Heidi, what you mentioned, about not sharing stuff with family. Remember, in the law, at least at one time, and I think it still exists in the law, the exception to that is unless you're a danger to yourself or others. How do you interpret that? It gets very, very difficult. So you definitely want somebody in there who will bring up issues like that, because that's exactly what will get played out or not get played out. You have a young person tell you they've been, sneaking mom and dad's pills and their oxycodone, and you don't say anything to anybody and they die of an overdose and it's in the med and it's in the records. You got an issue. You got an issue right there. So all of these things have to be looked at. As you well know, if you are going to act on something like that, you've got to have other people who you're letting know you're doing it. It has to be recorded. Why? All of those kind of things. So when you do training, you want training with people who know the real world and not just the laws. You definitely do, or you can have all sorts of things you really don't want coming your way in your program. Other paperwork things, anybody? Okay. If you think of something, don't hesitate to step in. All right. So here's the next issue. So let's say we have our Google Docs, system. Definitely not our Dropbox, but our Google Docs system in place. And we're ready to start putting things into it. All right. I'm going to put it this way. If anybody wants to, how do we do? I'm trying to think, how do I get all of this stuff that's here into the system, and I know I don't personally have time. I don't have the hours it takes to scan these and send. I just don't have it, so any ideas on how the thing is, we'll just have to plug along at it and get what we can in as we can. Interns are an idea. Hannah just, I think, sent out that idea. That's a good idea. If you have any interns, let me know. Actually, the folks that joined us from Teen and Family, I think they have some interns. I wish she was on. Hopefully we'll tag up with them, and I'll send it through the board also.
Brianna and Janessa are both interns.
Awesome. Well, it's just a matter of how do I, for what y'all are touching there. The problem is hard paper is here, in Houston. It's not there. So even to get it there is impossible. So I'm gonna have to find some folks here.
I think outreaching your local universities and colleges, to see if there would be anyone, with an interest in, doing some of that work, would be great. That's what we did here in New Hampshire, is we outreached, in particular, the social work department at the University of New Hampshire.
Great idea.
Any kind of health and human services programs. So, if you have programs in substance use disorders, or
yeah, we got it. That's a great idea. I'm just limited in what I come up with, and thank you, because that's exactly what I'll do. I'll call Angie. Angie's plugged into the University of Texas. Say, Angie, we need somebody to come over here and take all this stuff and, do what needs to get done. Other things. What else is going on, you guys? Anybody got any problems that they want
Well,
to
so
talk?
Hannah also posted in the chat that another important documentation for new APGs could be orientation agreements signed by participants at the time of joining the APG. And I know another area of documentation that we've talked about in New Hampshire is documenting attendance in the programming, topics, and meeting plans.
Yeah.
As well as any concerns that may have arisen. I think that, we've talked a lot about kind of those gray areas, right? That, we have clear procedures about, if a youth is if we suspect that a youth is a danger to themselves or others, but what if oftentimes it's more gray, right? Like you have a bad feeling, like the youth does or says something, and maybe they're acting oddly or whatever, and you might want to have a documentation process, so that how you followed up on that, how you approached it with the youth, and then if it continues, to have that documented so that you can be kind of looking at how long it's been going on.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The sad thing about this is the orientation agreements and all that stuff exists. That's what I'm frustrated with. I'm going, how do I get this out of the cabinets and into the air, and what I don't have, everybody else does. There are a lot of programs here have been operating for 20 years, Teen and Family, 20 years, something like that. So we just got to figure out how to get that out there and get it available. And I think we've come up with a plan. I will have to find some interns or something for Lifeway, and I'll ask the board also. All of this needs to. All right. Okay. Anybody got any other issues going on? Heidi, you want to say something?
Yeah. So one thing that I put out to folks, and Hunter, thank you. I saw you added a document, I think. Oh no, you didn't add a document. Okay, sorry. I was probably looking at something else. So one question that our APGs have been asking is how frequently should they be soliciting feedback from youth and caregivers about the programming? And so I'm curious, for those of you that are operating APGs already, how frequently does that happen in your organizations?
For us, as far as it being paperwork, right now, not that much in paperwork. As far as soliciting feedback, though, it's an ongoing all the time. The steering committee thing that we've talked about, how to build a steering committee, that steering committee becomes a very, very important tool in gathering feedback of how things are going, who's going, what's going on. Every time there's a meeting, there's a summation that's written up on who was there, what was shared, those kind of things. The facilitator will do that. That's part of the feedback also. But Lifeway right now is pretty small, right? And pretty, it's just the adults, the feedback. But I know that the steering committee is an important element in feedback. As far as written feedback, again, I believe that what you're going to find is that Angie and Mike have been doing some of that with the written materials. I can't tell you that it's ever been done very much in a written sense, except for gathering data on how things are going and that kind of, but that ongoing, how's it feel? Are you getting what you need? That kind of thing. That's an ongoing thing that's always going on. And with the exception of making a report on how the meeting went, what was done, what was accomplished, who said what, etc. It was never actually, I guess, added together. You see, if you have 2 or 3 people saying, hey, I'm bored, you go, oh, well, we need to create some more social activities. It's kind of a responsive thing. But I think you're talking about some sort of data collection on that kind of thing. And actually, that I don't know that I have, but I'll bet somebody does.
Right.
And if not, we need to create it. It's a good idea.
We spread ours out we try to collect them between 6 and 9 weeks apart from each other, just to get status updates to make sure we're implementing an effective program.
Great.
Do you have paperwork?
Yeah, so that's what I can add that to the Google Doc, but I believe what you share is the spreadsheets. I don't know how to get to the drive from there.
Oh, did I not share the whole drive? Sorry.
Yes, those are surveys straight from Angie Nash. I'll add those on there.
Okay, good. Listen, guys, I got another thing I got to jump to in a minute and a half. You guys have something you want to propose for next week? Let me know. How many of y'all are off next week? How many of y'all want to meet next week or do not want to meet? Give me some feedback real quick if you could.
James and I will be traveling that day.
Oh, guess what? We're not having a session next week then. Hey, will you tell James? Never mind.
Tell me what.
James,
Yeah,
quit being such a wiener, dude. Come on.
Oh, ouch! Did she tell you how many kidney stones I have?
No.
6.
All right. Don't do anything halfway, baby.
This beats getting out of a tub of ice and breaking your leg.
I don't know, man. 6 is a lot.
I have to go, guys. I love y'all. We will not have a session until after New Year's.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry
Good to see
Christmas.
y'all,
Happy
yeah.
holidays, everybody. Love you guys. Whoopee, whoopee.
Bye.
Bye-bye.